Hello, basketball fans. It's Dave, DC Hewitt, here for Fantasy Basketball Analyzer. Welcome to the Week 11 waiver wire breakdown. So we're going to talk about some waiver wire pickups, both to play here for the All-Star breaks and maybe some like deeper league long-term plays. But first, I got to do a little bit of housekeeping. I have a correction from the schedule from yesterday's show, which if you haven't watched, it's still good. It's right here. But I missed games that were changed. So Detroit plays the Knicks. So both Detroit and the Knicks actually have 2 games, not 1. And Phoenix plays Golden State. So again, those 2 teams play 2 games, not 1. COVID changes. I missed them from the schedule. My apologies. They're already updated in the sheet. They were right away. JB pointed them out in the comment to me yesterday. So thanks for that, JB. Along those lines, a different, well, it's not correction, update, news. So the Bulls were supposed to play the Raptors tonight, Sunday, as of recording. That's been postponed because the Raptors have too many positive tests, which I bring up because that puts worry on all of next week for Toronto, right? So Toronto plays Detroit and Boston. So I wouldn't be, obviously I have no inside scoop, but I wouldn't be shocked if Toronto's next 2 games are just canceled. We rarely see just 1 game missed. It's not impossible. But if they don't have enough players and they're headed to the All-Star break, the NBA might just call off Toronto's games. So Detroit might actually be back down to a 1-game week, and Boston might go down to a 1-game week. So it's just a little questionable with Toronto. So in your weekly lock leagues, I would be cautious about playing like your ancillary characters, like this is fiction. You know, the fringe players, I would steer away if you can. With that, let's start talking about the waiver wire. First name on the list is boring because I keep talking about it, but it's Jakob Poeltl for the Spurs. If we're looking at the schedule right here, right, the biggest thing is teams that play 3 games, and some of the teams play 3 games this week and next. You know, minutes is always the most important stat in fantasy in a way, but this week especially because all players can be a little inconsistent, right? So you want 3 bites of the apple, not 1, even if it's a superstar, right? Luka can have a great 1 game, but with 2 games, which he has this week, he's got a better shot at it, right? With 3 games, you can just pile up some stats. Jakob Poeltl's 47% rostered, so he's still under the 50%, and that shouldn't be. Hopefully that's not the case in any of our leagues. Hopefully everyone here has heard me yak about it, has already picked him up. But I wanted to do something extra with these because we're trying to gain some minutes, so I wanted to show this chart. We can look at the minutes chart for the Spurs. What's great is when I first was mentioning pick up Jakob Poeltl, it was because Aldridge was out. Aldridge is back now, and Jakob Poeltl hasn't disappeared from the lineup. In fact, he's still playing more minutes than Aldridge. So Aldridge is back. It cuts into it, but he may be holding on to the job, which is something we kind of talked about before. He's 47% rostered. Aldridge is 83%. I'm not saying cut Aldridge to get Jakob Poeltl, but Jakob Poeltl should be above the 50%. All right, enough about that. Going through the list, let's keep talking about minutes and these teams in particular. Next up is Portland, where Derrick Jones Jr. I think is a really good pickup for this All-Star section, right? He's playing well right now, but I don't know that he's going to be a sustainable fantasy option for you all season. But he's got 3 games this week and 3 games next week, and they're going to be some great matchups. So he gets to play Charlotte, Golden State, Sacramento this week. You like all of those matchups from a fantasy standpoint. Like those guys are up in the top 10 actually, the people we want to face. And then when they come back, he faces Phoenix, which you're not stoked about. And then he gets back-to-back games at Minnesota, which you are happy about that matchup. So not only does he have 6 games, they've got a really easy schedule. Derrick Jones Jr. is rostered in 30% of leagues, so you can pick him up. And while he's not going to score a ton of points, he'll get you some threes. He's going to get you a lot of blocks. So if you get a lot of blocks for free off the waiver wire and you're playing 6 games and other people are playing maybe 4 games over this combined week, if your league combines the week, that's going to be a real advantage. So I would give Derrick Jones pretty strong consideration for just this short stint. I don't think it's going to be long term. You'd be turning him over in a couple weeks when we talk about someone else. The other team with a great schedule for this coming 2-week hybrid, we talked about the Spurs, we talked about the Blazers, it's the Pelicans. So I did the same thing. I brought up the minutes and I was like, who can we do to really take advantage? And unfortunately, there's not a lot here, right? If I'm going through this minutes grid, Ingram, 100% owned. Ball, 92. Zion, 100%. Bledsoe, 75%. Adams, 83%. So you got to go all the way down to Hart to find someone that's really eligible for this segment. 39% rostered, I could see picking up Hart if you're in a deep league and you just want to get the extra minutes. But it's probably not going to explode, right? We talked about Hernangomez last week. If you want Willie Hernangomez, okay, but he's not playing like he was. He's still getting some minutes. He's basically seems to have replaced Hayes right now, which is good, but it's not really popping. So I don't have a strong endorsement from here. I guess it's Hart Hernangomez. I like the talent of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but I'm going to have to put a moratorium on talking about him this season unless something happens between now and the March 25 NBA trade deadline, which I don't expect. Walker just doesn't seem to be getting consistent minutes, so I don't think there's much here with the Pelicans unless it's crazy and you're in the 8% of leagues that Lonzo Ball is still out there or something like that. Shifting off the obvious teams in good situations this week, let's talk about some of the other options that are out there. If we look in Detroit, last week on this video, I gave the weakest of endorsements to Dennis Smith Jr., and right away it didn't really pan out. Turned out Saben Lee came out, got 33 minutes, that I think very night, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals. But the 33 minutes, 57% shooting, I was like, oh yeah, Saben Lee, here we go. I was happy to get off Dennis Smith Jr., on board for someone with the minutes. Here's the issue, though. I see his name being touted around there, and he's worth picking up. He's playing all right. I mean, he just had a game with 8 points and just 4 rebounds and nothing else. It's not great. The reason we were mentioning point guards for Detroit was that Delon Wright was going to be out for 2 weeks with his ankle sprain. Well, 2 weeks is coming up right after All-Star break. He might even be back for Detroit's first game, which I think is on the 11th after the All-Star week. So I don't know what's going to happen. If we look at the minutes right now for Detroit, you'll see Saben Lee is playing strong, and that's why I was like, yep, I'll take the miss on Smith, no big deal. But Smith's minutes have actually been increasing the last 2 while Lee's have been going down. Once we add Delon Wright back into the mix, I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm worried that Detroit's going to get one of its games canceled this week and only have 1 game. So I would keep him on your watch list. I know other people are talking about him. I think it's worthwhile to mention his name, but I would caution you, if you've only got 1 move or something to go, I'm not making the Lee move right now. Staying in this gear where Dave's a wet blanket, the general oeuvre of me being no fun, let's talk about Jared Vanderbilt. So Minnesota only has 1 game this week. It's the one team that you really can't play unless, it ends up that Detroit and Boston get one game. We don't know. That's just my speculation. Jared Vanderbilt played really well. 11 points, 12 rebounds, got you 2 blocks on 23 minutes last night. That's awesome. And I would love to come on here and say, scoop up Jared Vanderbilt. We've talked about him on other weeks. I think he's a great ad. But I don't want to do it right now. He's got 1 game. You guys shouldn't be picking him up to use him yet. If you don't pick him up now, you might miss out. He's rostered at 23%, and he just jumped 16% because of the big game. But he's only going to play 1. So for your team, if you want to win, don't get him right now. So I like the idea, but don't pick up Jared Vanderbilt right now. Set yourself a reminder for Thursday or Friday, right? Put a Post-it note on your mirror, the one below, you're a go-getter and people really like you. Put a Post-it note there that says, hey, check on Jared Vanderbilt on, Friday. So get him before the All-Star break because you might have a good stretch here. Oh, I've got an idea. I'll help you out here. Hey, Alexa, remind me to pick up Jared Vanderbilt on Friday. Maybe that set it for you automatically. Anyway, take a look at him. It's not a must, but I think you might have a good stretch here. If you're looking for more of a long-term ad, I think Robert Williams is the go-to. I'm sure this isn't shocking if you're following other stuff or on, fantasy Twitter. Robert Williams is 38% rostered, which based on his production right now, I actually think is a little too high. The problem is if you don't move, you might not get him. He's coming off a great game, right? 14 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks. He shot 75% from the floor for those 14 points. That's what you love in a big man. The problem is his minutes are crazy inconsistent. He did all that in 22 minutes, which is awesome. But game before that, 14. Game before that, 14. You're not going to get excited about 4 points and 3 rebounds. So you'd be adding Robert Williams just to lock him up, and he's got to stay on your bench for a little while because otherwise you might go crazy plugging him in and taking him out when he's just not giving you that much, especially if you've got a max game played in a roto league. I don't know that Robert Williams is there yet. And I'm already a little concerned that Boston's only going to end up with 1 game this week. If they only play the Clippers and not Toronto, then it's still not that great, but he just took a 26% jump on his roster percentage. So if you wait too long on Robert Williams, he might not be there for you. So take a look at Robert Williams. It depends on your league. I'm totally okay with saying, like, flag him, put him on your watch list, but don't make that move yet. Someone might pick him up and drop him again in between now and then because he's inconsistent. I think he's getting a little buzz because people are saying, like, coach said he wants his minutes to peak at the end of the year, and maybe it's forcing his hand. I don't even remember where I read that quote, so I'm not trying to mock anyone in particular. I'm just never going to give you, like, firm advice of coach said his minutes are going to go up. Coaches never lie, so do what he said, because that's just not the case. You just answer media questions sometimes. Robert Williams is good. He should be more involved, but he's still the third string center in Boston right now. I would watch him. If you've got the space for a long-term ad, weekly lock league, where maybe you don't need him, but you do want some center depth, it could pay off. It'd be maybe like a Justice Winslow move where I'm saying, grab this guy, hang on to him, and let's see what happens, but it's not going to be an immediate, like, fireworks show. Back to the bad teams with decent fantasy options. Danuel House is next on my list. House is rostered in 21% of leagues. Oh, also I should mention, I'm still interested in Tate, rostered in 35%, but we've talked about him too much, and I already talked about Poeltl again this show, so I can't keep hammering the same names. Anyway, Danuel House, he's getting some more minutes. Played 33 and 34 minutes the last couple of games. He's playing backup small forward, power forward, center all over the place now that Boogie's gone. Nothing's jumping off the page at you, right? 11 points, 6 rebounds. He got you 3 threes, which you like. But, you know, the game before he got 3 blocks, but I'm not consistently counting on him for blocks, anything. He's just going to be like a solid option if you're looking for a guy. And if the minutes stay up, you don't find a lot of players out there on your waiver right now, 21% rostered, getting 33 minutes a game. So he's worth the mention. Houston's got 2 games this week and 3 games next week. I like Danuel House. I'm giving it consideration depending on what your situation is. Lastly, I got another guy for your watch list. It's probably not an ad right now. Theo Maledon. If we're looking at Oklahoma City, it's kind of funny. So I mentioned Robert Williams is inconsistent because his minutes are jumping up and down. That's not the situation with Maledon at all. 32, 34, 35, 34, 33. Like, I keep rattling off 30-minute games, and that's great. That's what you love. You're going to get a guy playing 33 minutes a game. But his games have been really inconsistent. The last game he had 1 point, 3 rebounds and 6 assists. And it's like, really? You want me to pick him up? But the game before that, he had 13 points and 12 assists. So without the minutes really changing, he's just having a real up and down season. But the minutes are consistent, so he's going to get the opportunities. If you're looking for a long play, I think you could do worse. Now, he's only rostered in 14% of leagues, so I think you have time, and that's why I think it's only a watch list. If you need him, Oklahoma City's got 2 games this week, 3 games next week. It's not the worst ad you can do, especially because we're not worrying about streaming guys like in Daily Change that much for this week, because the games are so consistent. If none of those guys float your boat, I want to give an honorable mention to Bruce Brown, 17% rostered. He's playing well right now. Brooklyn's only got 2 games this week, so he didn't quite make the cut, and KD's supposed to be back after the All-Star break, we think, and I think that means Brown's minutes just, the whole team's minutes will shift a lot when you get your superstar back. I don't love it, but if you just want someone to pick up and plug it in, I think it's fine. And that's going to do it for this week's show. I want to mention, in case you didn't see, I do have a Discord set up for the channel. It's a lot of fun if you want to come join. I woke up this morning and was greeted by Slam City, giving me a little grief for my Justice Winslow call. And it's pretty fun. So you should join in. We'll sit there and chat. The link will be down below in the description. And by the way, I'm standing by my Justice Winslow call still. Although it wasn't so great that I mentioned, I dropped Gallo for him. And then Gallo went out, got 38 points. And I took that personally. Otherwise, thanks for watching. You know the deal. Please leave a comment, subscribe if it's your first time here, and share this out on social media or Reddit. If you don't want your friends to see it, maybe Reddit will be safe. They'll help me grow the channel. We've broke 900, which is exciting for me. We're climbing to 1,000. Thanks so much. Go out and win your week. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, please hit the like button and leave a comment down below. It helps me grow the channel. If you want more videos like this, hit subscribe or even the little bell will give you alerts. And I'll be back soon with another video for you.